Hello and welcome. This is Misconceptions Within STEM by Erica Anderson. First thing we're going to discuss are the 3 common misconceptions within STEM or within the science field. Starting with seeds and eggs are not living things. Human growth is caused by the cells getting larger. And if your dad is bald, you will be bald too. From Research 2023. Let's dive into each misconception and understand where they came from, starting with seeds and eggs are not living things. These are identified misconceptions because we don't see seeds and eggs as mobile or self-sustaining, and to the student's eyes, they're not living things if they're unable to do that. They only realize that it's a living thing when a stem emerges from the seed or a chick emerges from an egg. No one thinks to correct or change the situation because no one seems to ask if they are or aren't until the student or person goes to school. The second misconception is human growth is caused by the cells within our body to get larger. The identification of this is students see a puppy grow into a dog, but they don't see the cells dividing within the body because they're so small. That's why we need a microscope to understand cell division at the microcellular level. And this is a misconception because it's not seen to the human eye. And this misconception comes from a lack of understanding of how cells work, and oftentimes the concept is oversimplified, and people just say, oh, they just grow because of their cells, or they're bigger because the cells are bigger. And that leads to the common misconceptions that people aren't often going to question and say, oh, well, are you sure? The last misconception is if your dad is bald, you will be bald too. Male pattern baldness is a trait on the X chromosome, meaning it skips a generation and comes from your mother's side. So yes, if your dad is bald, there is a chance you might become bald. However, it is only a possibility, and there are other causes of baldness. It is not set in stone just because your direct parent has a certain trait. Genetics are much more complicated than that. Genetics are only one factor that play a role in if you will be bald or not. And there are many other factors that can cause baldness and other genetic abnormalities or things that people in society find unattractive, starting with hormonal changes or medications. So those are often side effects are going bald from taking them or changes in your hormones. Another great example is chemotherapy. It causes a person to go bald, but not because they have that gene, but because of the medicine's side effects. So now let's talk about the misconceptions in terms of how we can reconstruct them into the correct concept. So starting with misconception one strategy is to take the students through a seed to flower lab activity where they can see even at the seed level it is a living thing. The second strategy is having students look up what a seed and egg have in common using technology such as a Chromebook, databases, and other technological literature sources. Concept 2 is creating a model of cell division for the students to see the process in total of how the cells divide and make more of them, causing that part of the body to grow and enhance in size. Not because the cell itself is getting larger, because as we know, if a cell is taking in a lot of substance, liquid, anything like that causes it to expand, at a certain point, it reaches a hypertonic state and could explode, as we know. And then the second strategy that we use for misconception 2 is to provide video aids about mitosis and meiosis. On to misconception 3, one strategy is to have students create a DNA family tree to better understand genetics. And a second strategy is having the students develop a project where they investigate this as a question. If your dad is bald, will you be bald too? And dive into that to problem solve. Now, through reconstructing these misconceptions, the students are also developing 21st century skills that can be used later on in the workforce. We're going to go through each misconception and talk about how these skills are reinforced, and then the importance of understanding the correct concept. So for misconception one reinforced skill is technology integration, the ability to use the internet to find answers and share with their peers. It's important to understand the science behind the life cycle of plants and animals, since it'll help develop a more accurate understanding of the complexities of our natural world. For misconception two, one reinforced skill is inquiry-based learning, the ability to investigate and develop critical problem-solving skills while figuring out why an animal got bigger over time, not simply because the cells itself are enlarging. Educators can help students develop a better understanding of how cells grow and reproduce in our world. And that is very big because, as we know, cells are the basic unit of all living things. And our last misconception is one reinforced skill that the students will develop is project-based learning, where they can create their own project, problem solve, and communication skills, where they will communicate their findings to their peers and or other educators. Educators can help students understand that genetics are complex conditions that go far beyond if just your parents have them. There are a multitude of factors that go into predicting inherited traits. Now, throughout all of these misconceptions, they all stemmed from different things that we observed. But one of the most effective learning strategies within scientific misconceptions is to simply ask your students to record their thoughts before you reveal the truth. Present one of the common misconceptions above and have your students write down what they think is true about it or untrue about that statement. In a supported learning environment, always present the facts and the science behind the statement. Never let your students go questioning, because this is where preconceived notions and misconceptions continue to travel on. We want to stop them before they continue. Here are my references. Thank you for listening and have a good rest of your day.